Picture it. The sky over England in May of 1944, a brilliant expanse dotted with clouds, but hiding deadly secrets. Captain Bud Anderson, fresh off his 5th confirmed kill and already an ace, pilots his P-51 Mustang Old Crow slicing through the air. You can almost feel the rumble of the engine, the tension in the cockpit. A few days ago, he downed a Messerschmitt 109, but there's no time to savor victory. Across the Allied airfields, nerves are taut. Operation Overlord, the massive invasion of Normandy, is imminent, and the sky will soon become a battlefield for one of history's greatest aerial campaigns. Anderson isn't just any pilot. In the 357th Fighter Group, he is part of the lifeline for American bombers. Their mission? Escort them safely over hostile territory, protect the payloads raining destruction on German strongholds, and pave the way for ground troops. Sound straightforward? Think again. The Luftwaffe was cunning, experienced, and ruthless. They knew precisely how to strike. Massed formations, hundreds of fighters concentrated in one lethal point, diving head-on into bomber lines. Imagine the chaos as bullets shred through metal, engines smoke, and men fall from the sky before you even realize they're there. Dear friends, if this video has reached you, it's not by chance. Right now, click the subscribe button and the notification bell. Write a number from 1 to 5 in the comments. I will personally respond to the first 50 comments, and make sure to watch the video until the end. Yet by 1944, cracks were appearing in the Luftwaffe. Bud Anderson, reflecting in his book To Fly and Fight, described it well. Even by May, encounters with German pilots were unpredictable, a mix of raw novices and seasoned veterans. By fall, teenagers with mere hours of flying experience were sent into combat. 60 hours of flight training, 20 in fighters. Compare that to Bud's almost 900 hours before seeing action. The Allies had resources, experience, and time on their side. The new German pilots, often little more than cannon fodder. Still, in the air, each adversary commanded respect. Every Messerschmitt could be the Red Baron reborn, still capable of pushing a Mustang to its limits. May 27, 1944, marked this date. It was a day that would define Bud Anderson's career. As the 357th linked up with their bombers, the radio crackled urgently. Action was not far off, it was already upon them. Normally, German fighters avoided the Mustangs, preferring to target bombers directly. But this day was different. For one of the rare times in his career, Bud found himself hunted. "Bogey's 5 o'clock high," came the call. 4 specks glinting against the sky, Messerschmitt 109s closing fast. In a heartbeat, Old Crow led the Mustangs into a turn, the deadly ballet beginning. 4 Mustangs, 4 109s, circling, testing each other for weakness. The Germans initially held the altitude advantage, but the Mustang could outturn them just enough. Sensing defeat in the maneuvering, the 109s broke off, engines screaming. Yet Bud and his flight pressed the chase relentlessly. One of the 109s peeled away, leaving 3 in formation. Anderson split the pursuit with his wingman, sending Eddie Simpson and his element leader after 1 target, while Old Crow pursued the remaining 3. And then, the perfect shot. Bud lines up the trailing Messerschmitt, fires from 6 o'clock. Smoke spirals from the engine. The 109 flips onto its back, inverted, a brief defiance against gravity, before another burst of fire seals the kill Bud's 6th confirmed victory. Gun camera footage captures every harrowing second, a predator stalking a quarry in the sky. But the battle is not yet over. 2 enemy fighters remain. They know Bud is behind them. Their aircraft twitch, a nervous glance over the shoulder betraying their awareness. The trailing 109 dives, attempting escape. The leader does not. He climbs deliberately, audaciously, showing no fear. This is no novice. Bud remembers vividly. We turn inside, my wingman and I still at long range. He pulls around hard, passing front to back at an impossible angle. I want to get behind him, but I'm too fast. Only a skid awaits. A Mustang at speed can't make a square corner. In a dogfight, you cannot surrender airspeed. I overshoot and climb. He reverses, falling behind us, threatening my wingman. I peel away. He goes after him, and I close on the German's tail. He sees me, dives, then climbs left. Man, he can fly. Bud is alone now, the skilled 109 on his tail. The fight comes down to machine versus pilot, plane versus will. Anderson climbs desperately, pulling the Mustang higher, forcing the German into a stall first. Every movement is critical, life and death balanced on inches and seconds. And then, a flicker of triumph. The 109 shudders, outmaneuvered, defeated by Bud's unyielding control and the P-51's raw capability. In this single dogfight, you witness not just skill and courage, but the lethal chess of aerial warfare, the razor's edge where training, aircraft, and human nerve converge. What would you have done, staring down the barrel of a Messerschmitt at full throttle, spinning in the sky above Europe? He peels away just a heartbeat before I do. Then, almost imperceptibly at first, the Messerschmitt trembles, a subtle shudder that tells me it's on the brink, and then stall. Just 2 seconds later, Old Crow, my faithful P-51, falters too, yielding to gravity. For a fleeting moment, it feels like the air itself is holding its breath. The American fighter has saved Anderson's life, but the battle is far from over. He's slipping downward, and without hesitation, I shove the nose over and dive after him, my heart hammering. We are astonishingly high now, 6 miles above the earth, plummeting faster than any thought could keep pace with. The Messerschmitt had a head start, hurtling downward out of my reach, yet the distance between us closes relentlessly. Then, with the precision of a master, the German pilot flattens his dive and swings sharply to the left, climbing as though daring me to meet him head-on. Can you imagine the tension? One wrong move, one misjudged degree, and it could all be over. Suddenly, it's like déjà vu. We are back where we started. Every motion he makes is calculated, deliberate. This is no rookie. To outmaneuver him, Bud will have to risk everything. The enemy rises again, banking sharply to his left. My patience snaps. This is my moment. My angle is marginally better, and I roll the dice. No half measures this time. I dive inside his turn, fully aware that slowing down too much could mean I never see home again. The throttle eases slightly, flaps drop 10 degrees, and I pull back on the stick with everything I have. Slowly, agonizingly, the nose climbs. My chest tightens. Yes, I'm going to make it. Inside his circle now, I lift my sights onto him, and I know he sees me. For the first time, the Messerschmitt falters, breaking away and climbing straight up, engine screaming at full throttle, almost helplessly. I surge after him, full power, and the gap narrows sharply. He's hanging by his prop, almost vertical, and I'm there, right behind him. The lesson from moments ago is crystal clear. He will stall before I do. I have him, and he knows it. Old Crow has him exactly where I want. Seconds later, the 109 tips over, and I pull the trigger. Tracers tear through the sky, raking the enemy fighter, smoke trailing in the sunlight. The gun camera footage captures it perfectly. The 109 ascending, stalling, and the 50 caliber rounds hammering its fuselage. In a slow-motion dance with fate, the Messerschmitt tumbles 20,000 feet to the earth below, exploding on impact. Anderson's 7th confirmed kill. This German pilot, no doubt one of the most skilled adversaries he would ever face, met his end not by luck, but by the precision and sheer reliability of the P-51. It could have gone the other way in a heartbeat. Yet here he lies. And as evening settled over May 27th, Bud was simply grateful to be alive. Against a master of the skies, he had survived. But the summer of 1944 was unpredictable. Just 3 days later, on May 30th, Bud's luck and skill would be tested again. Escorting bombers over Germany, his flight spotted a squadron of 109s poised to strike. They dove immediately, and it became clear this German pilot was green, inexperienced, trailing his formation, and unprepared for battle. As Anderson engaged, he opened fire on the trailing aircraft, which promptly turned away, possibly obeying orders, or perhaps panicked entirely. The inexperienced Luftwaffe pilot dove desperately toward the ground, seeking escape. But the sky ran out. 25,000 feet of nothingness left him trapped. Anderson climbed behind, ready to fire, when fate intervened. The frightened German, trying to glance behind, pushed the stick forward, likely by mistake. The plane nosed over and smashed into the earth at full speed, exploding instantly. Bud's gun camera recorded the fiery crash, even though he hadn't fired a shot. And in vivid memory, he could recall the moment as if frozen in time. The terror, the chaos, the precise instant of doom. With this, Anderson claimed his 8th confirmed kill. Old Crow's legend grew ever larger. Then came June, and the world shifted. D-Day loomed, and the unit was grounded on June 5th. P-51s, adorned with bold, black and white invasion stripes to prevent friendly fire. Escort missions gave way to low-level patrols, dive bombing, and relentless strafing of German positions. Vital work for the troops on the ground, though Bud longed for the thrill of dogfighting. That longing was answered on June 29th. Above the bombers, Old Crow and the Mustangs spotted a flight of Focke-Wulf 190s below, oblivious to the deadly predators above. Anderson dropped into position with lethal precision, lining up the enemy leader and unleashing his Browning .50 calibers. A perfect hit sent the pilot bailing out, scattering the rest. One more 190 caught Bud's eye. It dove into clouds, thinking itself safe, invisible. But Old Crow followed with patient, relentless pursuit. Through the thin veil of mist, I could see the enemy's futile attempts at evasion. By the time the plane emerged, P-51 and Focke-Wulf were eye to eye, point blank. Bud squeezed the trigger, and fire met steel once more. The enemy aircraft shuddered under the hail of bullets, flames bursting from the cockpit like a torch in the sky. Bud watched intently as the German pilot, realizing he had no chance, pulled the canopy and prepared to bail out. You can almost feel the tension in the cockpit. Bud pulling up just enough to keep eyes on the man escaping death, noting that he was moving, obviously injured. And then, in a terrifying instant, the plane erupted. A fiery explosion engulfed the cockpit, confirming the pilot had paid the ultimate price. Yet even with 2 kills under his belt and ammunition still humming in his guns, Bud's mission was far from over. As he maneuvered back toward the formation, a lone German fighter caught his eye, exposed, vulnerable. For the 3rd time in this mission, a Focke-Wulf 190 came under his fire. This time, the German had no escape. The plane went down in a trail of smoke and destruction. By the time Bud returned to England hours later, 3 more kills had been added to his tally. 11 confirmed victories. He was now a double ace, a name spoken with respect across the 357th Fighter Group. Bud would notch 1 more kill on July 7th, another exposed Messerschmitt 109, likely flown by a green pilot. That final victory pushed his total to 12.25 kills. His longtime wingman and close friend, Eddie Simpson, also scored on that day. One of many shared experiences that cemented their bond, along with Jim Browning. These men were more than comrades. They were family in the sky, facing death together over Europe's deadly clouds. When Bud completed his tour with 300 combat hours, the first among the originals of the 377th, the moment was bittersweet. He returned to the United States after a long voyage, hailed as a hero, yet joy was fleeting. Just weeks later, tragedy struck. Eddie Simpson, over France, was ambushed by German fighters. Colliding with a friendly Mustang, Eddie survived the crash only to be gunned down 4 days later by German soldiers. For Bud, this loss was crushing, a wound deeper than any scar the Luftwaffe could leave. Bud soon returned to England for a second tour, now flying the upgraded P-51 Mustang. 6 guns roared from the new bubble canopy, Old Crow once again painted proudly on its fuselage. November 27th brought his first major engagement in this second tour. The Germans, though on the retreat, were far from defeated, motivated, and desperate, flying from the heart of their own territory as Allied bombers pounded their homeland. This day, the 8th Air Force attempted a daring ploy. No bombers, just a massive wave of Mustangs, some flying as escorts, others in combat box formation, meant to trick the Germans into a trap. And the trap worked too well. Over 100 German fighters dove in, expecting bombers, only to find themselves confronted by sleek, deadly Mustangs. Bud locked onto a lone Focke-Wulf 190, opened fire, and watched it falter, turning away in smoke. No time to linger, he spotted another and fired again, watching the second plane succumb. The dogfight raged on, relentless. Lower in altitude, Bud and his wingman came upon 2 more 190s, apparently preparing to land. The pilots, smart and wary, opted for belly landings, sparing their aircraft and their lives from the Mustang's guns. Old Crow and the flight finally turned for home. By mission's end, Bud would claim 3 kills, officially credited with 2 and a probable, bringing his total to 14, just shy of a triple ace. December 5th, 1944, brought one last major clash. Separated from the main formation due to a sick comrade, Bud's flight descended straight into the teeth of the Luftwaffe. Amid the chaos over Berlin, Bud destroyed 2 Focke-Wulf 190s. 16 confirmed kills, a triple ace +1. Winter then gripped Europe, grounding aircraft, giving both sides a pause. Bud was promoted to major, flew a few more missions, but never again faced such deadly aerial battles. Across his tours in Europe, Bud flew 116 missions, scored 16.25 kills, never aborted a mission, and never took a hit from enemy fire. His closest friend and fellow original, Jim Browning, remained behind and tragically vanished in February, likely colliding with a Messerschmitt, my 262 in combat. Bud honored his fallen friends by naming his son James Edward Anderson, ensuring their legacy lived on. Decades later, his son would help locate the wreckage of Browning's Mustang, confirming the long-held theory of his fate. After the war, Bud Anderson served as a test pilot and in numerous roles in the United States Air Force, retiring in 1972. In 2022, he turned 100 years old and was promoted to Brigadier General, a living legend, a man whose story, told through his family and his book, To Fly and Fight, ensures that Old Crow and the courage of those who flew her will never be forgotten.